trying to make these cars faster for today. Normally they make it, they're successful at doing that. So I feel like they're going to be faster today. And like I say, don't know that it's quite to that track record speed, but I think we're going to see that 142 average speed, 143 average speed. I think it's going to rise.
Eyes are on some noteworthy names from yesterday, Davey, that ended up from 15th on back. Talking about Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power. Team Penske was 15th, 16th, 17th. Grosjean and Kirkwood 18th and 19th. Elio Castroneves 20th. Simon Pagenaud back in 27th position. So I would imagine, as we suggested yesterday at the close of the day, some long debriefs and some pretty significant decision-making. Maybe Scott McLaughlin, I saw on social media, reference perhaps wholesale changes to their setup going into today.
Yeah, and that's right. I'm sure we're going to see that. And right now, you look at the top of the charts, and it changes by every single lap. Pagenaud found himself 25th or 26th, I think, even lap, whatever it was, 27th, I think. And now he finds himself in that 5th spot right now. Grosjean in 6th. This is all going to change. Rosenqvist, he's been fast all year. We talked about the McLaren cars, how good those cars have been here this year. And right now, it's first Rosenqvist, second Pato Award. VK, who needs to find some speed, then Power and Peterson. How about that Foyt car in 5th right now? Now, you got to remember, they're all going to change right now. 143.753 for Peterson in that 5th position, but we're going to see that 140. I expect to see him getting them 139s at least, as we see Colton Herta just go off track. He comes back on, no harm, no foul. Got a little gravel.
Looks like picked off a couple of sides too, Davey.
Yeah, it looks like maybe it broke some. Looks like maybe a little fluid coming out of that car as well. So what he hit, it could have got a cooler or something, because it does look like he may be laying down a little bit of moisture on the racetrack as he comes around. It could be dust, it could be gravel, not sure, can't really tell right now. Still things flying off that race car, though, after he hit that sign.
We'll have Alex Wolff and Joel Sebastianelli on pit road throughout the course of this session. Speaking of Alex Wolff, Alex, one thing that has not changed throughout the course of this weekend, and we don't expect it to, near picture-perfect weather conditions.
Oh, absolutely. Picture perfect is the perfect way to put it. 72 degrees ambient temperature, track temperature at 93 degrees, sunshine, blue skies, and it's just an incredible day here at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Yeah, good stuff for sure. And Davey, you've had a chance to look at a couple of replays that got over that curbing, really upset the balance of the race car.
Yeah, he really kind of missed it in turn 6 and got a little wobbly. Then he went into 7, went a little too high, got on the rumbles on the outside of the racetrack mark before he did the turn in. And when you're on those rumbles, not good traction, and it just turned that car around. Did a quick 360 through the grass. Very fortunate he didn't hit anything, to be honest with you, as we have another one.
Alex Palou.
Alex Palou off, that is Alex Palou off in the gravel trap. Looks like he must have had contact. Yeah, actually pretty good contact coming off turn 14.
And
that was a big hit.
Man, yeah. That is a big hit, Davey. We just got a peek at that replay. Boy.
Yeah, he went flying across that gravel. The gravel's there to slow you down. It did slow him down maybe a little bit. Boy, he kind of skimmed over the top of it. Thank goodness the tire barriers are there. He's out. He's okay, first and foremost. But it hit the right side of that car really hard. There's going to be some bent-up suspension pieces on that car, no question about it. As the red flag comes out, AMR safety team's going to get him dug out of there. We'll watch it again. Yeah, he actually, ironically, spun way before the corner even started and flew across that gravel. Hit, like I say, the tire barrier really hard, and best news is he's fine, he's okay, but that car has some damage.
Yeah, he was able to get out of that car and extricate himself from it, and he is walking to the AMR IndyCar safety vehicle under his own power, and that's you don't want any of those issues, Davey, especially when you got to go qualifying in a couple of hours. You're losing valuable track time at this point.
That's right. You really are losing valuable track time, and that's ironic that the car turned around and spun so early. It tells me maybe the bias, brake bias was off just a little bit, or he just, when he turned in the back end, it's actually kind of locked in gear right now. They're struggling backing it out just a little bit, but just something you usually don't see cars turn around that early on in the corner.
Well, you don't see that one turn around very often at all. I mean,
that's right.
54 starts, Davey, and, he's got 6 DNFs at 54 starts. So this is this is rarefied air, if you will, for Alex
Palou. And don't take anything away. We know how good this Ganassi team is. He could come out and be on the pole still. I mean, he just set the fastest time. That was part of it. The timeline's right before turn 14. Obviously set a fast time right there, but maybe just a little bit too fast. He's a half a second quicker than Harvey, P2 right now. But like I say, in the gravel pit, they get this car fixed. They'll come out for qualifying. I bet they'll be battling for the Fast 12.
51-point lead over Marcus Ericsson coming into the race weekend. He leads Joseph Newgarden by 70 points. The quest to win his second championship, Alex Wolf.
And went down to the 10 pit with Barry Wanzer trying to get some answers, and left with just as many questions. He told me when I asked, did Alex say what happened? And he said, we know as much as you do, that he looped it around, got it into the tires, and they are not sure yet either. So they're waiting for Alex Palou to get back to figure out what went on.
Davey, I don't want to speculate here, but I've taken a couple of lengthy looks at the replay, and it almost looks like something may have broken on that race car, because he was carrying a ton of speed into that. I mean, a ton of speed into that corner, and it didn't slow down at all until it hit the tire barrier.
No, it did not slow down. You're right. I mean, you're usually seeing him braking and trying to make that right-hander in turn 14 to come onto this front straightaway, and you're right. It just almost like the throttle was stuck and turned around and flew into that barrier. Now, hopefully that wasn't the case. Don't know exactly what happened, but you're right, man. He had way too much speed to make the corner for sure.
And is awfully thankful for the depth and the location of those tire barriers, because but for all intents and purposes, Davey, he skipped right across the top of that gravel trap. And,
he really did. I was going to say the same thing. You could hardly tell where he went over it, and now we have a little better look, and you can see that side pod mark. You can see the right rear suspension bent up. You can see the AMR safety crew trying to get all the gravel out of that car. But you can see suspension doesn't look, it's bent for sure. Nose cones off the car. Side pod's definitely wiped out. And looking underneath the car, you can see where the underwing is broke loose, where we got some dividers on the bottom of these cars for the underwings, and it definitely took a beating, and that's broke. So it's going to be, a lengthy fix for this team for sure.
37 minutes remaining in the session, by the way. We're under a red flag for a single car incident involving Alex Palou. He had moved to P1 just prior to that incident. Jack Harvey, Marcus Armstrong, Felix Rosenquist, and Pato Ward were in the top 5 early on in the session. Then Ferrucci, Kirkwood, VK, Will Power, and Benjamin Peterson. Ray Hall is 11th quick. Pagano is 12th quick. Newgarden 13th. Canapino 14th. Roman Grosjean 15th. Scott McLaughlin 16th. David Maluka 17th. Christian Lundgaard is 18th. Alexander Rossi 19th. Stingray Robb is 20th. Colton Herta 21st. Callum Ilott 22nd. Ryan Hunter-Reay is 23rd. Devlin DeFrancesco 24th. 25th, Scott Dixon 26th. Elio Castro Neves. Speaking of offs, we saw one by Colton Herta. The approach to the carousel a few moments ago. Joel Sebastianelli jumps on board to update us on that situation.
Yeah, that's certainly an exciting way to start the session for Colton Herta, but ultimately no harm, no foul, no issues with the car. They'll make a rear wing adjustment, but no issues for the 26 machine. He'll be good to get back out as soon as we go green again.
Thanks for the update, Joel, and happy to have you with us after a great job in Detroit a couple of weeks ago. They'll be joined by Georgia Henneberry on race day. Davey, we should get back to green flag conditions very, very soon. This note courtesy of our good friend Scott Richards, who provides us with all kinds of interesting nuggets throughout the course of the month of May. Road America has produced more first-time winners than any other road and street course, Davey. Could that happen this weekend?
Yeah, well, I think it could happen this weekend, to be honest with you. There's some drivers hungry that have not won. I'd like to see that. I think that's healthy to see new winners all the time. And it's a little surprising that this track brings more first-time winners. It's a little surprising as fast as it is. I shouldn't say it's technical. It's fast, and it's you got to be prepared for the high speeds, high G forces, heavy braking zones, and this is a great facility. But first-time winners, that's a little bit of a surprise.
Well, I mean, I guess it's the conventional wisdom, like we talk about with some of these young guys, especially in the Indy Next Series, Davey. They don't know what they don't know, so they just they're taking advantage of how fast this place is over the course of 4 miles.
Yeah, that's right. They haven't hit anything yet sometimes. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And we know that, like I see Rosenquist, I know he's won, obviously, but he's hungry. But how about Armstrong? That's a rookie, P3 right now in that Ganassi camp. This could be a little more to his style. This course is a little more the European style, a little more of the Formula One kind of ranked tracks. And I think we heard that from Jamie Chadwick earlier in the Indy Next series, talking about, this kind of reminds her of Spa a little bit. So some of the foreign drivers that come over here, probably a little more they're liking this track.
Well, about 10 full-time drivers trail Marcus Armstrong in the season point standings, Davey. So that gives you an idea how that talented young rookie has maximized his opportunities in this road and street course only role with Chip Ganassi.
Yeah, he knows how to find him, doesn't he? Chip, he really knows how to, like Armstrong, I really haven't heard of him, to be really honest with you, and then started doing a little bit of research on him and thought, okay, yeah, he's definitely, he seems to be okay, good. Well, he seems to be really good, and Chip just seems, he can find these drivers that has that little bit of extra, and I think Armstrong could be, one of the next, long-time racers for that team. He just seems to have a good feel for it, and gets up to speed fairly well, and does it fairly cautiously. Like you said, he's up in the points, and that means he's not crashing a lot. He's finishing racing. And he's learning what this series and these cars and tracks are all about.
Well, and I think one of the keys to success when you talk about the Big Two or Big Three, I mean, we gave you the incredible statistic on Alex Palou in terms of DNFs. Scott Dixon's numbers are just as impressive. When's the last time we saw Marcus Armstrong off course? I mean, what it boils down to oftentimes, as they say, to finish first you must finish. And those seem to be one of the characteristics. That seems to be one of the characteristics that Chip Ganassi looks for in a driver.
Yeah, true. And, I seen when you talk about Scott Dixon and his stats, the other day, somebody, and I can't recall who it was, I looked at I think a tweet that went out that he evaluated and kind of all the drivers' stats that are current drivers right now. And it was for a completely different reason why he put it out there. But when you look at power, you look at Scott Dixon, you look at Joseph Newgarden, the stats those drivers have are just so impressive on just how good those drivers are and how good those teams are. It's just amazing. And then, some you go down the stats again, and like say Armstrong, for as few races that he has, his stats are pretty darn good for the few races that he has.
Watching Will Power now, courtesy of our multi-screen monitor, Davey, working his way through one of the favorite portions of our race, of the racetrack for me, the one that I like to see the most. A pretty clean exit off of turn number 14, and then that's a pretty impressive run up to the start-finish line. You don't see it until the very last moment.
No, you don't see it till the very last moment. Matter of fact, you're going up that hill, that rise. All you can see is really sky for the longest of time, and you really can't see the racetrack. You can see the checkered flag and the flag stand, but you can't see the racetrack till you crest over that hill, and then go down into turn one. We talked about it yesterday, Mark. Super fast, third gear corner, high commitment. You gotta really, kind of brave up to get through that corner at the speed that it can handle, and Will seemed to do that really good right there. Seemed smooth. Had a rough day yesterday, and we talked about that Penske group kind of regrouping, changing complete setups from bottom to top. And Will Power, he's one of those ones that was back in the timing chart, so he's trying to make it a little quicker today.
It looked like that maybe that wheel was fighting him a little bit in turn number 2, which is the right-hander, which starts to sweep you back down the hill toward turn 5, which is the left-hander. But all in all, as you mentioned, not a lot of input on that steering wheel. That car seems to be pretty comfortable, at least early.
Yeah.
Don't know how fast it is, but it's pretty comfortable anyway.
Yeah, well, one thing, he just had a moment, went to pass Romain Grosjean down that back straightaway, heading down into Canada Corner. Had a nice run, really, on Grosjean. Thought, okay, he's going to go by Grosjean. Well, Grosjean moved to the right, put Will off racetrack, off into the grass, so I'm probably not too thrilled about that. So had a little bit of moment there with Grosjean.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that we saw an issue earlier in the Indy Next session is apparently we haven't read. Oh, boy.
Dixon and Power.
Will Power and Scott Dixon, two of the guys that we were just talking about, Davey, in terms of their efficiency and their ability to finish races, and they are sitting in two badly damaged race cars right now.
They really are. Can't tell where exactly they are, but boy, what a big hit. Don't know. We were just watched Will Power go through that corner, and looked like everything was good. I didn't even see Dixon in the picture, to be honest with you. Don't know if there was kind of a blind area where they came around and hit each other or what, but both of them. Oh, it looks like Will's mad at Dixon. Dixon put his hands up, but Will, he is definitely upset. Oh, boy.
Yeah, they're not happy. The AMR IndyCar safety crew, again, they are the best in the business, and they are there almost from the time that the cars come to a stop. And Dixon and Power. Boy. Oh, Power.
He is upset, man.
He got on Dixon pretty quick.
He got on Dixon pretty quick. Like I say, he is upset, boy. I don't know. Boy, you usually don't see that, especially those two. They have a lot of respect for each other, and man, he is upset. I don't like to say we're anxious to see what the replay is here, but boy, he is. And like I say, those are two drivers that have some of the best records in the series, and definitely have respect for each other. But I don't know what happened. We'll have to watch replay. Dixon, he doesn't act like he's innocent. You know, I mean, something went bad. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know what happened for sure. So.
I don't know that they should drive them back in the same vehicle.
No, definitely don't put them in the same truck. I know they were kind of guiding them that way, but definitely not a good idea.
No, they have closed the door on the one, and Scott Dixon looking at the rear of that race car and continues his conversation. Will Power never took his helmet off. Dixon,
Will Power.
Yeah, Dixon has his helmet on.
We're watching it right here. We're watching it goes through to Canada corner. Scott Dixon's to the right, really slow. Oh, yeah. He actually just turned right. Wow, we don't see that very often. He just turned straight up into Power and made a big hit. Yeah, that was wow, I don't know. I've never seen anything like that before, but that was all on Dixon, and I've never seen, especially him. Maybe he just didn't realize he was coming. Maybe he's seen Grosjean go by, then he started to take off, and not realizing Will was there. I mean, totally on him, totally his mistake, and that was a huge hit by Power, but wow.
We'll continue to watch this unfold, and we'll head back to the Infield Care Center, where Alex Wolff has caught up with Alex Below.
And a definitely interested observer in what we just saw on track. And Alex, first of all, are you okay, and what happened with the 10 car from your perspective?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm all good. Just very unfortunate. I was pushing maybe too much. Wanted to see the limit, but didn't obviously want to ruin our practice too and our car. So shame. Sorry to the team. They prepared a really fast car, as we could see yesterday and this morning. But yeah, hopefully we have enough time to repair it and be back on track. I don't really know exactly what happened. I think I touched the grass on entry and just spun. Couldn't do anything there. So yeah, shame.
With that first session yesterday and a little bit of time today on track, has it been sort of recalibrating where the limits are on this track with the new pavement? What's it been like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a really fun track already. So when they made it just faster, it's even more fun for the driver. So we didn't test here, so I felt confident with the car. I wanted to see where the limit was before heading to qualifying, but obviously we went too far.
Third quick yesterday, and of course you always want to have that extra practice time, but still looking ahead to qualifying, if you're able to get it all bolted up, do you still have a high confidence level going into that qualifying session?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. As long as we have enough time to repair the mess that I did just now in practice too, we'll be okay for qualifying.
Glad to see you're all right. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
1:55 Eastern this afternoon is when they will go qualifying, and that's what the timeline is. Joel Sebastianelli's on pit road.
Mark, I was just able to get a quick word with Chip Ganassi before he rode away from Scott Dixon's stall. I asked him if he heard anything from Scott about what happened, and Chip's words from Scott were, Scott said, "Man, I was just trying to get out of the way."
Yeah, and, Davey, not making excuses. I mean, I think Scott, you could tell by his response from what we saw. I mean, I think he's fully well aware of what happened. But, again, we have the benefit of slow motion instant replay. And I think, Grosjean went by, and Scott mistakenly assumed that he was clear. And I think he was laying out, trying to get some separation on the racetrack. Maybe trying to get a good flyer in, and boy, two wadded up race cars as a result.
Yeah, and what's a little surprising to me too, Mark, is that's not a place to be slow because that back straight, you got a lot. That's the end of the racetrack. I mean, you're going into turn 13, which is, we talked about it yesterday, how incredibly fast these cars go through off of Canada Corner and through that turn 13, 13A, and just how fast they are. And that's exactly where the contact was. And yeah, you just don't. You don't really need to be slow there. Usually by then you're coming up on the timeline and you're full after it. You're full getting after it. And why Scott was slow there, I'm not really sure. Don't know if he had a mechanical issue and he was slow just trying to get to the pits, just trying to get out of the way, or if he was trying to save his tires for a flyer. But any case, man, just really unfortunate. Two great race drivers. We just talked about the records of both of these drivers, how good they are and what their stats are. Unfortunately, a big mistake made by Scott, taking both out.
Let's go back to pit road and Joel.
I'm with Taylor Kyle, sitting here in Marcus Ericsson's stall. You weren't here yesterday, and you had a pretty good reason for that. Congratulations on the birth of Knox Allen. How chaotic a week has this been for you personally?
Yeah, it's been a lot for sure. But we went through this before with my daughter Quinn, and my wife's an absolute rock star. She holds the fort down when I'm gone, and we both grew up in the racing environment, so we kind of know this comes with the territory. And we got everybody home, we got everybody settled in, and I bolted up to Road America here to get this race weekend started.
And we're glad to know you both. As far as the racing here this weekend, is there anything that surprised you about the new pavement and the way the tires have reacted to it?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to test here with Armstrong earlier a couple weeks ago. So I think for us, we had a little bit of intel that helped us get started on the right foot, but otherwise, it's important for us to take as much advantage of the track time that we have here with the correct tires and the correct ambience and all those things. And the group's done a fantastic job getting the car up to speed and in a window that's competitive.
Do these reds throw a wrench into all of that?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's kind of the same every weekend. You don't get to run reds until the race weekends, right? So you never really know until you know, and I think that's certainly the case here.
As Taylor Kyle. Thank you, Taylor.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, Davey, looking at the replay in its totality from the time that Dixon came through, and we're seeing it now, it looks like he may have spun in that turn, and that's why he was slow in that area. Yep.
Yeah, that's
we just got a glimpse of it. Yep.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. He came down through Canada Corner, really hot, spun out, and then got the car maneuvered again back on the racetrack. Was the driver's right? I think he must have just glanced in the mirror and seen Grosjean, thinking it was clear. And didn't see Power and just turned straight up into Power. Power had nowhere to go, and I think he got the biggest brunt of the hit as well. Fortunately, both drivers are okay. Let's state that they're both okay and out. But Power's car is pretty wiped out, and just a huge mistake on Scott's part. I know it was not intentional. I'll promise you that, not an intentional thing, and it wasn't like a get back or get even kind of incident. It was just he did not know Power was there.
Given again under 3 minutes to go before we go back green, with 1:55 Eastern start time, Davey, that's just a couple of hours from now. It's one thing to have to affect an engine change, but a lot of this suspension pieces and things of that nature, a lot of bolt-on stuff. So not an ideal scenario, but I think just, talking to Alex below with the heavy damage that his car sustained, because, again, you have the benefit of a multi-car team and a team that doesn't go through the situation often, but has been through it before. Boy, now, Davey, we see looks like they are wheeling, courtesy of our monitor, back in the paddock area. Looks like they're wheeling a new power plant into that paddock area for that number 12 car. Yeah,
I think on the 12 car's case, it hit so hard it may have already, they may already know it damaged the gearbox and the engine as hard as he slapped that wall. And so they have a new engine, and what that means is probably the spare car is going to come from upstairs down and put the new gearbox. They got the gearbox coming in, the new engine coming in. That team is prepared to basically build a new race car, and looks like all the components are coming out. They're going to be prepared for it. Now, another thing you got to remember on the Ganassi side, he's got two cars in there that they're going to be fixing. So it's going to, I doubt that we're going to be able to get any interviews out of that camp for a while. They're going to be, head down, busy trying to get two, not one, but two cars. And then the power situation, there's another 30 minutes in this practice session by the time it goes green, approximately 30 minutes left in it. And once it's over, hopefully no more Penske car issues, and some of the other teams can come and help out as well.
Well, yeah, it'll be all hands on deck most assuredly once we get back. And by the way, we should let you know that, again, last year, the scenario that unfolded for these practice sessions on these Saturdays, Davey, It's listed as a 1-hour session, but they have that 1 hour to get 45 minutes of practice time in. So while we are under red, that clock is rolling, and it's rolling towards 30 minutes remaining in the session.
Yeah, that's right. 30 minutes. I hear cars firing up right now, so about a minute to go. It'd be exactly about 30 minutes left. So we'll make sure everybody gets the ample track time that they're guaranteed. And the good news is this kind of happened early in the session. To be honest with you, that's one good thing. Gives these teams an extra half hour kind of to really get to work on these cars. If it happens late in the session, just closer to qualifying it comes. So I guess if it's going to happen, it happened at a fairly good time.
Indy next qualifying will come your way at 1:15 Eastern this afternoon, and then at 1:55 we'll go knockout qualifying for the Firestone Fast Six, and then your schedule for tomorrow lines up like this: at 10:15 Eastern, the final 30-minute warm-up session, and then a complete coverage of the Indy next race at 11:05 Eastern tomorrow morning. And then at 1 o'clock Eastern, join us for pre-race festivities and flag-to-flag coverage of the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR. And while certainly there is time to make necessary repairs to the car, but we're talking about a championship ultimately, Davey. As we said, Alex Palou with a 51-point lead over Marcus Ericsson. Joseph Newgarden in that third position. Scott Dixon trying to keep pace. He's amassed 194 points to the 273 for Alex Palou. So he doesn't need this in an effort to keep pace. And Will Power is trying to stay in contention. He is currently in the 8th position, 172 points he has amassed so far this season.
Yeah. Two drivers definitely that are fighting in that championship. They didn't get that 500 win, so they want to try to win the championship now. So the last thing that they needed going into this qualifying day is to have any kind of bad luck or incident happen. And they can recover. These teams are really, really good, but track time is so important here because this new surface. I think these drivers and engineers they continue to to tread the boundaries and just see how fast they could go. And we've seen Dixon a long ways ahead of Grosjean, by the way, but as you've seen first, Mark, the car spinning out of control, didn't hit anything, but when he pulled back on track, knowing that there's a car coming, he pulled back out there. But that's part of the limits of this racetrack, just trying to find the limits. That's one thing that Will and Scott won't have the advantage of doing as this session goes on.
Well, one of the advantages, obviously, you have when you're on an oval, Davey, is you have an extra set of eyes, depending on the size of the oval. Couple of extra sets at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I know that there are some road and street courses where they do dispatch spotters, but boy, sometimes no matter where you put spotters, they're not going to be able to obviously see everything, especially on a 4-mile racetrack. Really,
the spotters, they do have spotters here, Mark, but the majority of them behind, or I should say ahead of them, I guess, of where they just had the accident. They sit in some grandstands that overlook turn 5. That seems to be kind of the tricky area of passing zones where they can see guys overtaking inside and outside of that tricky, tight number turn 5. But, we don't see incidents happen very often in that turn 13 area where we just seen that happen. So, yeah, you're right. It's not an oval. You got to, a lot of it's on you, and you got to really look at those mirrors. And when incidents like that happen, it just goes to tell you, no matter how good what your experience is, you can't, be safe enough and really make sure that nobody's coming on the racetrack.
You haven't gained a lot of intel if you're these teams to this point, Davey, because, like we said, a 1-hour session. To get 45 minutes of track time in, and the most anybody's turned is 6 laps. Yeah, that's right. You don't remember 4-mile course too, right? So I mean, these laps, when we see them, they just continue to show low laps as far as lap count, but a lot of miles still, the same amount of miles. But every corner, that you want to get better at, it's 4 more miles before you get back to it. So just unfortunate what went on. We're showing another replay about it, and as you can see, it definitely wasn't intentional. I think we're going to have a chance to talk to Scott here momentarily, but I guess the most important thing, Mark, they're both okay. Because of the fact that there doesn't appear to be a tremendous amount of difference in the degradation of the reds and the blacks, the alternate and primaries, we should say. Davey, we're seeing, I think, what appear to be a lot of qualifying sims by these drivers.
Yeah, I'm really going to be curious to see what the tire of choice is and for qualifying, because I was surprised yesterday. The softer compound red sidewall tires weren't faster. I mean, I just figured they're going to be faster right off. So we're going to go to Alex real quick.
Alex Wolf.
Scott Dixon at the infield of the Care Center. And first off, Scott, a big hit. Are you okay? And what happened from your perspective?
It wasn't really a big hit. You know, it was just kind of a glancing blow there. But yeah, just sad for the situation. Obviously, I was trying to get out of everybody's road. I knew and saw Grosjean. I just didn't realize the 12 was so close and tried to pull out of the way for any other coming traffic that was maybe going to be on the fast line. So, yeah, unfortunate incident there, and feel bad for it.
Now, what was the conversation like with Will after you guys had gotten out of the car?
Yeah, he was pretty fired up. Obviously, once we got back in the medical car, he was fine. But yeah, just feel bad for everyone.
Glad to see you're all right, and we'll see you for qualifying later.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Yep, good stuff, Alex Wolf, and great insight. And yeah, I mean, Davey, what we saw in the video, that's the sign of a sportsman and a champion there, and that's why I think Scott Dixon has earned the respect of a lot of his competitors. What happened, and he didn't shy away from it.
No, he took the blame. No question about it. I see one more car off track.
Marcus Ericsson.
Gee whiz, the Ganassi cars, they want to, and he's pulling out, not turn 14 as well, pulls out across the racetrack coming up pit lane, but boy, the Ganassi cars just seem to have some issues in this practice session, and we see Frucci off course as well. He's heading backwards down in that, it looks like in that turn right off Canada corner, exactly where Scott Dixon that just happened. He spun around, he's sitting.
Now he stalled it.
Yeah, he stalled it. Red light's on. He stalled it, and they're going to have to throw a red flag to come and get Frucci.
There are going to be some teams and some drivers, I think, more than a little miffed at the fact that they really haven't gotten a lengthy amount of track time here in this session, Dave.
No, you're exactly right. We have seen Rosenqvist, I think, fastest lap of the weekend, 141.2, almost in that 140 barrier. As we watch Ericsson, same corner as Pelot, his teammate went off, and later in the corner spun around, didn't get into the gravel, didn't hurt his car at all, and it shows it right there. He's underpowered. That's the normal kind of spin that you may see, a little different than Pelot's, and but then. I guess he did go through the gravel a little slightly, but no damage to that car. Was able to pull it back across the racetrack into pit lane. And then Frucci, we see him right now. He spun out off Canada corner, got up in those rumble strips, shows him coming to a stop, backs up, gets out of the way, fortunately, for some of the cars to come by. He kept it running, but then when he spun around, he stalled it to try to continue on.
I need to talk to your wife, Quincy, about what it's like to ride with you when you just describe a 130-mile-an-hour spin as normal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she'll tell you how good of a driver. I think most race drivers aren't very good on the street. I'll just be straight up.
Well, I know this. If I don't remember anything else of my time spent with you, I'm always going to remember the time when you were able to get us out of the racetrack at Sonoma by simply saying we need to see the guy about the stuff. They didn't argue with you; they just waved you on through. So.
It worked. Yeah, you just if you go fast, if you go fast enough, they don't question you that much.
Yeah.
But that was we got away with one there, didn't we, Mark?
Yeah. You just act like you know where you're going and what you're doing, and they usually don't question you for sure. But we're at 22 minutes remaining in this session. Felix Rosenqvist, David Malukas continues to have a positive weekend, which is so badly needed by that team. McLaughlin, Newgarden, and VK the top 5. Castro Neves up to 6th quick. Devlin DiFrancesco 7th quick. Then Pagano, Peterson, and Jack Harvey through 10th. Armstrong 11th. O'Ward is 12th. Grosjean is 13th. Santino Ferrucci is 14th. Colton Herta is 15th. Ericsson is 16th. 17th Kirkwood. 18th Rahal. 19th Canapino. Stingray Robb is 20th. Will Power 21st. And Dixon, Eilert, Lundgaard, Hunter Ray, Rossi, and Pelot to Alex Wolf.
Will Power out of the mobile medical unit. And, well, first of all, are you all right? And what was the situation from your driver's seat?
Yeah, Scott was trying to move out of the way, and I was committed to the outside there. And, yeah, just an unfortunate situation. Just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, we saw how upset you were getting out of the car. Was that more just with the situation, or was it a situation where your perspective changed after you sort of sat back and talked to Scott about it?
No, I know what happened. I mean, he moved very abruptly, which is very tough at these speeds. But, just said, we just talked about it, and I understand what happened there, and just unfortunate.
Glad to see you're all right. We appreciate your time. Best of luck in qualifying.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and again, Davey, can't say enough and how much we appreciate Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, and Will Power making themselves available under very difficult circumstances. Always provides tremendous insight to the fans, which is why we're doing this. So we appreciate their time, too, because, well, I tell you, it's always easy to stand, but you know, on the second or third step or the top step of the podium and have a conversation. But boy, in those situations, sometimes it's tough, and they just soon get back to the paddock and you know, focus on the race car and getting it put back together. But yeah, hats off to them for handling the adversity so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Back to when you just after the Dixon interview, and you go, you know what, class and professionalism. Well, I have to say the same thing with Will Power. I mean, he knows. I mean, it was not intentional. It was just a bad situation. You know, they were able to talk it out. Two of the best in the business, and if you don't believe it, just look at the stats. Right? I mean, their stats are just unbelievable of what they've been able to do, and them getting together. Obviously, a huge respect for each other, and you know, I'm glad there's no issue between them now. It was an accident, no question about it. It was unfortunate. Will Power kind of got the short end of the stick because his car seems to be, you know, worse, and he shouldn't have even been involved. But you know, just class guys, man. You got to respect them both.
Well, no one please let Chip Ganassi know that I was touting them as the big one with their success they've had in the season with the struggles that they've had this morning. That's you know.
Well, they can still recoup, and they both.
Yeah,
hey,
I think they'll be okay.
They run first and second this race. I mean, never count them out of anything, and know that when those cars are set back on the ground and they're going to be rolled out for qualifying, that those things are perfect. And it's just the only thing that they're going to be lacking is a little bit of track time, a little bit of, you know, just unsurety of, you know, what that car is going to do just because they're lacking track time. It's always good to finish your practice session knowing exactly what you have for a car, what it's going to do, how deep you could run the car in there. Now, here's the good news of it is the way we do qualifying now, you get multiple laps.
Right.
And so they can work back up to it. It's not like the days where, you know, that I was used to is you just go out and you got to lay down 2 laps on your own, and it is what it is, and you got to get it all right now. So it does give these drivers a little bit of an opportunity to go out, kind of shake the car down, fill it out, and that's why I have to say, don't be surprised if they're not in the Fast 12, and don't be surprised if they, you know, either one of them doesn't win this race.
Well, if Alex Palou does it, it'll be a heck of a story, Davey, because he's turned but 1 lap in this session. Currently he's 27. He has turned 1 lap, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he got it at very least around to 12, but the Fast 6, after only turning 1 lap in this practice session, will be a heck of a story. Santino Ferrucci, by the way, a 5-minute hold for bringing out that red, and we've had a couple of drivers, Devlin DeFrancesco and most recently Ryan Hunter-Reay, pit lane speed drive-through penalty for him. Ryan Hunter-Reay currently 25th quick, and after the session yesterday, he was 22nd quick. And for Ryan Hunter-Reay, it's a matter of him getting comfortable in the car and the team getting comfortable with the feedback that he's given him, Davey.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen overnight. I think Ryan Hunter-Reay was the first one to say that. He goes, hey, I hope, you know, there's not going to be changes overnight. I mean, this is something that we all have to come in here with open minds going, okay, this is the big picture. This is, you know, how do we get faster down the road? Hopefully, you know, whether it's his you know, response or the feedback to the engineers, whether it's something that the team's doing as a whole that could be changed a little bit. There's a lot of things that they're continuing to work on, and to be honest with you, Ryan Hunter-Reay's been put into a very difficult position because, you know, I mean, he's been on the car for a while. This is not easy, and he's with a team that we know is struggling just a little bit. The good news is VK finds himself 5th right now, so that's probably going to help both those drivers out somewhat to know that there's a little bit of speed in these cars. But you know, hats off to him. We all, you know, Ryan Hunter-Reay is definitely a fan favorite, and you know, it's good to see him back in his seat. It's just a tough situation.
Let's get an update on the status of Will Power's car as they try to make repairs to it. Alex Wolf will go qualifying later today.
Yeah, that 12 car is back in the paddock area for Team Penske, and it is an all-hands-on-deck situation. The rear wing knocked askew on the Verizon Chevrolet. They're also going hard to work on the front end, the front suspension all smashed in on that 12 car. They also have the engine cowling off and looking around the rear end of that 12 car, but it looks like they're going to try to get repairs as the speeder wrenches going full bore as they try to get this car ready in just a couple hours for qualifying.
And 16 minutes remaining in this session, and Colton Herta goes to P1. Felix Rosenquist had been there for a while. David Malukas continues his strong run. He's 3rd quick. Then McLaughlin and Newgarden through P5. That continues to turn over as now Alexander Rossi, who was quick yesterday, and he, for one, Davey, seems to have taken a shine to the shiny new pavement here at Road America, along with David Malukas. He, too, has been fast this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And, let's talk about Herta, too. We've talked about him yesterday a little bit. A little surprised that he's been on the pole here before. Has been really fast and contention, to win this race. And seemed like a little bit off pace a little bit. But right now, that Andretti team, they really seem to have found something. You got Herta first, Rossi, second right now with that McLaren car, Rosenqvist with the McLaren. But right now, Herta seems to be leading the pack with that Andretti team. Seem to, like I say, found another good little glimpse of hope is Rahal. He's in that 8th position right now after the struggles obviously we know that they've had this year, especially at the Indianapolis 500, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, with him not qualifying for the 500. Being in 8th right now is a little bit of a victory right there.
Well, I'm sure the second half of the season, Colton Herta is hoping to become a bit more Colton Herta-like, Davey. Through 7 races, obviously no wins. He has no podium finishes, just 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s. He's only led 5 laps on the season and has 1 DNF, and so it's not been a Colton Herta-like season for Colton Herta.
No, and we talked about that coming in, like what's going on there, and but right now we know he's got talent. We know that he has a great race team, but just something wasn't mentioned. But right now, I mean, obviously he's found some great speed. Fastest of the weekend again, 1:41.058, almost in that 142nd bracket. Now we'll see. There's some consistency, not from him so much, but that McLaren team. And how about the coin team? Malukas in that P4 position. You got McLaren in the top 5, all 3 cars, and you got a McLaren car and an Andretti car. So no. Armstrong's close with that Ganassi car, and Penske's close with McLaughlin in 6th and Armstrong in 7th. But right now, no Penske or Ganassi in the top 5.
Well, don't look now, but Alexander Rossi, who's currently P2, was P1 after yesterday, Davey. He's heating up just a little bit. I mean, he had a miserable stretch between Texas and Long Beach where he finished 22nd at both races, but he finished 8th at Barber. He was 3rd at the GP. He was 5th at the 500 and 5th at Detroit. So Alexander Rossi certainly is heating up along with the summertime weather.
Yeah, he definitely is, and which is really good news actually. And he transferred from the Andretti team to that McLaren team, needing some success, needing some luck. Kind of been a lull for quite a while now. Did get a win last year before he left the Andretti team, but just hasn't had the results that they want or expect out of himself. So, and finding himself at the top of the charts right now, taking a little bit to mesh with that team, but so far so good.
We got an update from Alex Wolff on the efforts to get Will Power ready to go qualifying. There are now twofold efforts to get cars repaired and get them ready for qualifying in the Ganassi stable, Alex.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. About 40 minutes or so ago, a half hour maybe ago for Ganassi Racing, that we thought the most pressing issue would be repairs to the car of Alex Palou and the American Legion team swarming over that car. It looks like they're working on the under tray of the 10 car right now, but it appears to mainly be sort of a bolt-on parts there as they swarm it. But on the other side for Scott Dixon, what he described as a glancing blow, maybe for him physically, for that car much more, because they have a fresh PNC Bank Honda sitting right next to the crashed one. They're still looking somewhat over that crashed car from earlier in the practice session, but it looks like it will be a backup car for Scott Dixon as they hope to get it ready for qualifying this afternoon.
A lot of work to do for those teams, and thanks for the great work and keeping us updated, keeping us posted on what's going on back there with all of that, Alex, and getting interviews with all of those drivers involved in those incidents. Davey, staying with Arrow McLaren and looking at Felix Rosenqvist. There's no question that he can qualify a race car. His worst starting position was 10th at Long Beach. Unfortunately, it hasn't always produced positive results. He finished 19th at St. Pete, 26th at Texas, and 27th in the Indianapolis 500. The average starting position for Felix Rosenqvist is 5th, just under 6th, I should say, at 5.9, but his average finish is no better than 13th.
And you look at those races where I'm going to use Texas and I'm going to use the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was in contention to win those races until the end. He just seemed like something happened at Indy. I thought as that race went that he's really got the opportunity, and then knowing that he was holding some back and telling his team, when can you let me go? When can you let me go? I'm ready. Let's go. And they just give him that A-OK and gets a little bit of dirty air, puts himself in a bad position in turn one and gets in the wall. So to me, that is, these race drivers are true athletes, Mark, and you have to be, physically fit, obviously, because just the G-forces that you withstand and just the amount of time in these hot cockpits, and you definitely have to be physically fit, but you have to be mentally fit as well. And that goes after you're sitting in the car for 2-3 hours and at these high speeds and competing with all the competitors out there and how competitive it is mentally. You can't let anything loose. You got to make sure that you're tied there as well, and that you're as focused at the start of the race that you are at the end. Seems like there's just a little bit of a lack there. Not sure. I can't pinpoint it. Not sure internally what that could be, but I know as a racing driver that sometimes if you get physically tired, you get mentally tired. So I don't know. That it just seems like in the races he's letting them go.
We'll complete the sweep of that Arrow McLaren team, and while Rossi is trending in the right direction, that's not the story with Pato O'Ward, Davey. The last 2 races for him. Now, previously, he'd had a worst finish of 17th at Long Beach. He'd been on the podium 3 times, in fact, in the runner-up spot. He finished 4th at Barber, but for Pato O'Ward, Davey, the last 2 races, 24th in Indianapolis and 26th in Detroit.
Yeah, I think that a few things. You look at Long Beach and I look at Detroit for Pato, and he's kind of being known for that late, throw it inside, hang on, move. And he did that at Long Beach, and it took Scott Dixon out. Obviously, he wasn't very happy with him. Don't blame Scott. I think that was not a good move on Pato's side. Then he did it again later and took himself out because there was nobody to bank off of. And then we did it again in Detroit. Shot it underneath Ferrucci. Ferrucci goes, well, I'm not going to mess with that. Got on the brakes. And Pato was going so fast, he didn't make the corner by himself and ran the wall. So I think there's just something that he needs to look at. It is, his driving style a little bit on that inside, throw it in there inside, move and try to bank it off somebody isn't working. And I know he doesn't want to take the blame for it, but in all honesty, I think that's really costing him some good finishes.
Well, and you could say, well, that those decisions will come and change and be more reserved with experience and maturity. I mean, he's getting ready to make his 63rd start, so far from having rookie stripes on, that's for sure.
Yeah, far from having rookie stripes on. That's he's got a lot of experience and wins. Hey, we know how good he is, and we know what a great character he is, and how good he is for our sport. And he brings a lot of fans, and he's a great personality, and so he has it. It's just there's a few little things he needs to. Maybe he's a little overconfident on, or needs to just change up a little bit to be that continued race winner and that championship contender at the end of the season.
Well, last year's pole sitter is showing that certainly no ill effects from the new paving job here. And a guy that's got a couple of podium finishes here, including a win. With 8 minutes remaining in the session, Davey, Alexander Rossi is going to P1.
Yeah, P1 shoots back to the top, does break into that 140 range, 140.911, average speed of 143.199. How impressive is that? I mean, we're not in the track record range right now, but it's faster than we've ever been here with the IndyCar series. So pretty darn impressive right now with Rossi, Herta. Rosenquist still continues to impress with that McLaren car in that 3rd position. But Malukas, Del Coyne can't say enough about him and how he keeps banging away and gets good product, but they seem to have been off pace a little bit this year. But right now, seem to find a great setup for this smooth, fast, new paved racetrack. And after Ferrucci spins, gets a 5-minute hold, what does he do? Comes back, puts it in the top 6. So another good run by that Foyt car.
Yeah, to your point about David Malukas, I mean, so much promise. And I think maybe the expectation level perhaps was a little bit too high based upon the one impressive performance that he had when he got himself, he grabbed headlines at the Worldwide Technology Raceway late in that race last year, Davey, with that incredible run on that very tricky oval. A handful of more laps that could have very easily gotten his first win. And maybe because of that, the expectation level in the offseason was a little bit high. But I think David Malukas and this race team expected better results than an average starting position of 18th, and the same for their average finish position, 18th.
Yeah, and you got something like last year that I think really helped out Malukas. I mean, he had a teammate Sato.
Great
Sato, Takuma,
Yep.
a lot of experience. Really liked David. They got along great. I think helped him a lot through from setups. I think Sato's really good at car setup. He's been doing this a long time. I think he has really good communication with the engineers and the drivers to relay that information on what the car needs. And I think maybe that helped Malukas last year, where he doesn't have that help. He's the senior guy this year in that team. So, everything lays on his shoulders. And we see Colton Herta spin in Canada corner, doesn't hit anything. Looks like he's going to keep it running. No, maybe not. He's rolling out of the way right there, but another off for Colton Herta down in Canada corner. Although he's P2, but boy, that's his third time he's been off course for sure.
Now, Davey, we're getting a look at our monitor, and through the apex of that turn, as the red flag flies, it looks like Colton is rolling kind of out of harm's way, and the AMR IndyCar safety crew is nearby. They should get him restarted quickly as the red flag flies with 5.5 minutes remaining in this session. But there are some, and they're not readily apparent, but the drivers sure see them if they get to the high side. There are some rumble strips that are kind of the same color as that lighter asphalt through there.
Yeah, and it is tricky, Mark. I have to say that get through that corner, man. He tried to carry a lot of speed through there, didn't quite make it. But those rumble strips, as you said, they match the asphalt on the outside of the corner, and you can use them. You can't go through there, but you can't go through it if the back end's already loose. So you could drive through them if it's straight. But boy, if you get the back tires on those, but he actually spun before he even got to those. So, but that is a tricky area. We've seen a lot of drivers drive completely over those. Like I say, it's okay as long as you're driving straight, but if the back end is any skewed at all or loose and you hit those, it's going to turn you around.
Well, to try to paint that mental picture for you folks, those that are fans of this form of motorsports, that area down there, the runoff to driver's left, it already, Davey, is starting to look like an area where they do that formula drifting, or
Yeah.
It certainly looks like a popular spot to do donuts for sure.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of rubber laid down, more there than anybody. It looks on the racetrack. We can see a groove starting to, generate around this racetrack in most of the corners. I mean, you look at our cameras that on our monitors here, Mark, and you can see it is starting to groove up. What we call groove up, because you can see that black lines and the black rubber laid down. But in that corner especially, boy, there's a lot of them. With 3 minutes left or 4 minutes left, we see Rossi hopping out of his car. That's hopping out with a lot of confidence right now too, being P1.
Well, they've got to get Colton Herta restarted, which they do just now, and he's going to get back underway and get that car back to pit road. By the time he gets back there, there'll be about 3 minutes remaining on the clock, if you will. Of course, his session is done because of that mandatory 5-minute hold. But as you suggest, Davey, by the time they get him back to pit road and throw that green, with this being a 4-mile track with just about 3 minutes on the clock, there might be a handful of takers, but some clearly, especially the ones near the top, Rossi, as you mentioned, and others feeling as though that they're happy with what they have.
They're happy they have, exactly right. We do see Rosenquist going back out, Grosjean, Newgarden, looks like Kirkwood. Now, that's another one. Kirkwood, just as fast as he is and as good as he's looked right now, just hasn't had that speed here that he likes, that we normally see him have. And right now, where did it occur? Oh, he has actually moved up to 8th quick mark. I looked at a while ago. He's back in that 23rd, 24th position. Another car moving up about in that 19th spot right now. Ryan Hunter-Ray, Ed Carpenter team. He's kind of getting the hang of it, getting some speed.
So Alexander Rossi with 2 minutes 30 seconds left is P1, and is the time at 1:49.11. Colton Herta is second quick, then Felix Rosenquist, David Malukas, Marcus Armstrong in the top 5. Ferrucci, Award, Kirkwood, McLaughlin, and BK through 10th. Lundgaard 11th, Newgarden is 12th, Jack Harvey is 13th, Benjamin Peterson is 14th. Rahal is 15th, DeFrancesco is 16th, Castro Neves is 17th. Callum Ilott is 18th, Ryan Hunter-Ray is 19th, Stingray Robb is 20th, Simon Pagenaud 21st, Romain Grosjean 22nd, Ericsson 23rd, Canapino 24th, Will Power 25th, Scott Dixon 26th, and Alex Palou 27th. Those last three were involved in pretty significant incidents. Power and Dixon involved together. Palou was a single car incident, and repairs are being made to those cars, or referring to a backup car because of the amount of damage, and hopefully with all hands on deck from both of those respective teams. They'll get those cars put back together. Davey, if you don't think, and I'm not being a homer here.
We got another one.
We got another car.
Off.
Yeah, it looks like Simon Pagenaud off of the gravel trap. And we're going to go red again, Davey, and that's on that final turn. And that's probably going to put the wraps on this session with the clock showing a minute to go.
Yeah, he kept the car running, actually, but in that gravel pit, spins those tires, so it's a red flag, and it's going to be a checker to follow that immediately. Didn't hit the tires hard. His car's actually okay. It's just a matter of getting him out of that gravel trap in 1 minute's time.
So Simon Pagenaud finds his session come to an early close at 21st quick. Looking at his teammate Elio Castroneves is currently 17th quick. And back to my point, Davey, about the versatility that these drivers simply must have in order to be successful here. There can't be two circuits less alike than Detroit and Road America, and we'll talk more about that after we hear from Alexander Rossi. Alex?
Alexander Rossi on the timing stand of the 7 car, and Alex, you were the quickest yesterday, quickest today. Is it really the foundation that you built on the test last week, or have you found some new things this weekend?
No, I mean, we had a very good test here, and it's translated. Obviously, it was a different tire, so that was a question mark. But the team has done a good job with the kind of offsets that you need with this tire, and we just got to keep executing each session.
As we look ahead to qualifying and then the race, the Reds versus the Blacks, there's been a lot of talk about it. Are you noticing any kind of a difference as far as balance in the DEG?
Oh, well, not DEG yet. They're not as quick. Like usually on the Reds, it's a big pace difference, and I don't think we'll have that this weekend. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, too early to say on DEG.
With qualifying in a couple of hours, is there still a little bit more in this 7 car?
Oh yeah, lots more.
Look forward to seeing what you do. That's Alexander Rossi, top of the charts.
Alex, good stuff all throughout the course of this session for sure. Interesting comments about, not knowing much about the DEG yet and not seeing a noticeable difference necessarily between the alternates and the primaries, Davey.
The good news there is he's not seen the DEG yet. They got enough laps in to know if these tires are going to, give up grip or not. And I think that's going to be good for the race. I think it's going to be good for the race. Sometimes it's fun to watch DEG happen. Cars starting to slow down, other cars not. And so, but the Reds, he's the first one to kind of say, don't really see a big speed difference. Normally there is, and that's what I noticed yesterday, just not that big speed difference between the red sidewall tires and the standard primary blacks. So I'm qualifying. I really think that last session, at least, I think they're going to put some sticker blacks on. We've seen that happen before by putting blacks on instead of reds, getting on poles. Doesn't happen very often, but it could happen today.
Well, Davey, back to what we were talking about before we heard from Alexander Rossi about the difference between Detroit and Road America. They're obviously very, very different. But from a driver's perspective, which one is tougher, or you just simply say, well, we can't really make that comparison because both are hard but in vastly different ways?
Yeah, they're all tough, Mark. They are. But what's the difference is you're going extremely slow at one racetrack, being Detroit. I mean, just a really kind of single lane. You're on the streets, really low grip, not a chance to you have one long straightaway. So it just takes a different style than here, which is extremely fast. One of the fastest road courses you mentioned that we run on. And so it's just a whole different mindset, a whole different style of driving that between the two of them. Two totally different places, and it takes two totally different talents.
It's been an interesting session, but when all is said and done, Joel Sebastianelli, Colton Herta, second quick on this practice session.
That's right. Yesterday was a challenging day for the team. This session was a little bit at times, but you wind up second. Are you pleased with the balance in the race car?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was it's new to us, right? So when we had a night, the engineers had a night to look at everything, what the car was doing and how we could make it better. It made a big difference for us. We were one of the teams that didn't really test here. So, yeah, track time's good. The car feels like it's in the window now. We still need to find a little bit, but I'm happy with it.
Are guys pushing a little bit harder on this new surface?
I don't think so. I think everyone kind of pushes as hard as they can all the time, but I think the problem is it's a weird surface. It's hard to get the car balance right. So when you're just outside the window, it seems like you're a long way off, and the car's a nightmare to drive. So I think a lot of guys are probably struggling with that.
All right, but he's certainly close second in this practice session. That's Colton Herta. Thank you.
Tremendous insight from pit road all throughout the course of that session from Alex Wolff and Joel Sebastianelli. Certainly appreciate it. Rossi was the fastest. Herta, Rosenquist, Malukas, Armstrong, the top five. Ferrucci, Award, Kirkwood, McLaughlin, BK through 10th. Lundgaard 11th, Newgarden 12th, Harvey 13th, Peterson 14th, 15th Rahal, 16th DeFrancesco, 17th Elio Castroneves, Calabailon 18th, Hunter Ray 19th, Rob is 20th, Pagano 21st, Grosjean 22nd, Ericsson 23rd, Canapino 24th. Will Power, Scott Dixon, Alex Below, unfamiliar territory, Davey Hamilton 25th, 26th, and 27th. Their crew's very, very busy trying to get their cars put back together, repaired, replaced before we go qualify.
Yeah, a lot of work going on in those camps right now between that Penske and Ganassi camp, the big two. And but like we talked about, Mark, we've seen this happen before with these teams getting back really good race cars. Obviously, they're professionals. They know what to do. They got a great record in our series, and don't be surprised to see them towards the front qualifying. But you never know. You never want to be in this position, that's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a good weekend so far for David Malukas, Joel Sebastianelli. He is currently fourth after a good practice session yesterday.
And I'm sure he hopes it continues. It sounds like it was a good test for you guys last week. How important was that to get you guys where you're at right now?
It was very good. We needed it. I mean, we've had a bad kind of early mid-season kind of situation we've been having, and of course, it's really been hurting the team morale-wise. And we've been trying so hard, and the results haven't been coming. So to do that test day, I was getting very excited, and the team's kind of like, whoa, calm down. I'm like, guys, I know we're gonna come into this weekend. This is gonna be the one. I'm like, this is gonna be our rebound race. And obviously we did practice yesterday, and I was pumping everybody up. I was like, see what we got, and morale's high now, and yeah, it feels good to be back.
I just walked over to you while you were signing some autographs. You're a Chicago guy. Is this kind of like a home race away from home?
Yeah, I've had a lot of success going through the ladder series coming through here, and I mean, I grew up watching my dad race Corvettes, so this is like very much a home track to me, and it feels very special, and of course a lot of fans here, and they're amazing.
David Malukas looking to keep it rolling, fourth in this practice session.
Indy Next qualifying comes your way at 1:15 Eastern this afternoon, followed by complete coverage of qualifying for the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR. You can join us at 1:55. Yours truly, Davey Hamilton, will handle the call for the booth. Alex and Joel in the pits. We'll have Jake Query, Nick Yeoman, and Michael Young out on the course. So join us throughout the rest of this afternoon. Again, Rossi, Herta, Rosenquist, Malukas, Armstrong, the top five. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock. On-site engineering and production courtesy of Rick Evans. Master control operations by Sam Rumsa. Again, tremendous job by Joel Sebastianelli and Alex Wolf for all of the insight and all the interviews on pit road. For Davey Hamilton, this is Mark Janes. So long for now from the Sanzio Grand Prix at Road America, presented by AMR.